Welcome everyone to the Gridiron Genetics Lab. We're here on the Fantasy War Room podcast, once again joined by my friend Dalton Cates. Dalton, you got a hot take for me. We're going to dive right into it. You told me earlier, you really got my attention here, that you believe Marcus Mariota is going to somehow outscore Russell Wilson.
You know, it's one of those things where I think that the past experience of last year when we saw Russell Wilson, be that top guy, I'm really concerned with the weapons there. He's losing a guy like Jimmy Graham, and they never really signed a number 2 outside Baldwin there. They've got Tyler Lockett coming back who should, help them a little bit, but they got Jaron Brown from the Cardinals in free agency as well. So as far as the passing weapons go, outside of Doug Baldwin, I'm a little concerned with what Russell Wilson has to work with there. The Seattle Seahawks, they go ahead and they draft a running back in the first round, and they're making all these comments. Brian Schottenheimer is their offense coordinator now, and they keep talking about wanting to run the ball a lot. So I'm a little concerned about what Russell Wilson is going to be able to do this year, and how effective he will be, and how much of volume he'll be able to produce in that passing.
This worries the Russell Wilson fantasy owners like myself. I have him in Dynasty, and last year, 34 touchdowns, only 11 interceptions. He was on fire without an offensive line. And yeah, you bring up the loss of Jimmy Graham, what's around Doug Baldwin, him, Tyler Lockett. Then you have Brandon Marshall, who's on his last legs. Who knows if he'll even make the team. And then you also have Darboh, who people who are in deep dynasties have been kind of hoping and waiting for and stashing. But isn't Russell Wilson the type of quarterback who can produce? Doesn't matter who his supporting cast is?
Oh, absolutely. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. One of the reasons why I think he's going to regress from last year was his high touchdown percentage. He had over 6% touchdown percentage last year, and no quarterback in the entire league other than Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady have posted back-to-back touchdown percentage. And I don't think that Russell Wilson, as a passer, is near those guys in terms of elite ability. So I'm expecting that to regress a little bit. But the whole take is more so based on Mariota love than it is on Russell Wilson hate. So I'm going to dive into that real quick and give you why I really like Marcus Mariota this year. First of all, he was awful last year. I'm not going to make any excuses for him except for the fact that he was playing hurt last year. He had a hamstring injury that was bothering throughout the year. And we know with rushing quarterbacks how great of fantasy assets they are. We look at a guy like Tyrod Taylor, who, even though he's not putting up these crazy yardages through the air, he's still putting up essentially low-end QB1 numbers. And, we see with guys like Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, these guys were all top 10 quarterbacks last year just because of how effective they were in the rushing game. Marcus Mariota is in that tier of guys in terms of how well he's able to rush the ball. I really love this Tennessee offense. They're bringing in a whole new coaching staff. They got Vrabel there as their head coach. And they got Matt LaFleur, who was the offensive coordinator of the Rams last year. So I think they're going to use similar concepts and how they, were able to make Goff really effective in that passing game and utilize that for Marcus Mariota this year. I think he's in a very good position to succeed. Corey Davis is going to be in his second year. I'm a really big fan of his, and I don't think he really got to showcase his talent last year because he was really banged up. They got Rashard Matthews, in my opinion, is one of the more underrated wide receivers in the league. Tavon Taylor should take a step up this year. But Delaney Walker's also there, and he's one of the more productive tight ends in the league. Not to mention they have the top 5 offensive line, in my opinion, that should keep him upright and keep him in the pocket where he's able to make plays for himself.
Tell me about Matt LaFleur. Sorry, I say Bill LaFleur. I was talking about Bill Lazor earlier, that's why. But Matt LaFleur, coming from L.A., how does he translate what Goff did well to what Mariota did well? Because to me, they're different types of quarterbacks. I don't know. I just don't feel like he's a type of pure passer that Goff is.
And I agree, but I think that the people that he's learned under Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, guys who have found ways to, work to their quarterback strength. So I'm not expecting them to put in the same scheme that they use for Jared Goff, but I expect him to, really, really hone in on what Mariota does well and focus on those strengths and really help him in that passing game a lot.
Last year, he only threw 13 touchdowns in 15 games and 15 interceptions, so he can only go up from there. But how does he outscore Russell Wilson? Because Russell Wilson threw 34 touchdowns, like you said, and you see a regression. So what can we realistically expect and estimate from Mariota in a full season?
When you're actually looking at the facts and the data behind it, it makes no sense. Like, it really doesn't make any sense whatsoever, like what I'm talking about. But at the same time, last year, if we looked at what Jared Goff did, and we tried to project what he was doing, it would have made no sense for us to project him as a top 10 quarterback. It would have made no sense for us to go project a guy like Deshaun Watson to put up those crazy numbers there. So this is more of a feel of how I like that coaching staff, and I like just that whole offense as a whole.
And then here's one thing that I definitely love in Tennessee way more than Seattle is the offensive line play. I know I've always been a big fan of Conklin, and then they also have the other tackle named off the top of my head. I don't have it right now, but Tennessee's offensive line is way better than Seattle's, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I like the run game there as well. I think Henry, I think Deion Lewis out the backfield will really help Mariota be kind of like that, just safety blanket that, I think they're going to utilize Lewis similar to how they were early in the offense as far as utilizing him in the passing game and first and second downs. So I'm liking that as an option. Well, like my Mariota love also really coexists with my Corey Davis love. I just think those guys are really going to, step up this year. And
I love Corey Davis, man. He's a freak. And he didn't get to show off his skills last year because of injury problems. But let's not forget, I know you've got a big crush on Deion Lewis. And you got some stock in Deion Lewis, so definitely you feel like there's a connection there with Mariota, Deion Lewis, and the read option, and also him checking the ball down to him and getting him involved in the passing game. Do you think Deion Lewis is going to be a huge part of Mariota's progression?
I do. I definitely do. I think that was one thing they were lacking last year with just DeMarco really didn't look the same last year. He really didn't, and we saw. We were looking at last year. I mean, remember how we were in drafts last year? Mariota was this breakout candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was projecting him to be into that, that top tier of, the Russell Wilsons and those guys who were supposed to make that jump. And it didn't happen. Mainly because he was hurt there, and the weapons that we expected for him to show up really didn't show up. The Tennessee, just their offense really never got going whatsoever. And I think just with a full, a refresh there, a restart, this will really help him, jump up into that category.
So your love for Mariota, that means, are you saying, reach for him a little bit higher than you would? I don't know what round that is. Where does he fall? What tier? And with Russell Wilson, kind of let him fall to you because you're looking for a regression because he produced so well last year. It's only right that he, doesn't put as much big of stats as last year.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing is, regardless of my drafts, I'm always waiting, and I've just been doing a lot of mock drafts, and I've noticed that Mariota's falling to like 14th, 15th, 16th round. Like he's going undrafted in some of the drafts I'm doing, and I'm okay.
Really? He's getting undrafted?
At some drafts, yes.
Wow.
He's being drafted like after so you have like the top 10, like the Cousins and the Cams and all those guys. And then you got like the Rivers, and then Mahomes is getting drafted ahead of him. You got the Big Ben's drafted ahead of him. Jameis is getting drafted ahead of him. Like he's falling down there. He's like getting through.
He's like Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco level in that area.
Just right above those guys. It's
wow.
Yeah, he's getting thrown around there.
So you're saying basically, you can get him for really, really cheap, and you can go stack up on all your other skill positions.
Exactly, and I'm gonna there's in all my leagues I'm gonna have either like a Mariota or
that's great value.
So cheap. He's so cheap.
Well, final question. These two guys are definitely in different realms of their career, right? Russell Wilson's got a Super Bowl ring. He's now in that elite tier. Marcus Mariota is still young. He's still growing as a franchise quarterback. So, what can we realistically expect and be very, very happy with from Mariota? How is he going to outscore Mr. Wilson? That'd be crazy.
It would be crazy. But it's really interesting when you just kind of like compare the two careers. You look at Russell Wilson, and the year before he broke out into this elite tier, he had 3,400 passing yards, 20 passing touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Now I'm just gonna kind of just throw Mariota's last year out the window because I think it's an outlier year. But if you look at what he did in his second year in the league, he had 3,400 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. It was actually better than Russell Wilson during his third year. And Russell Wilson's second year was actually almost identical to what Mariota did. He had 3,300 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions.
Identical, yeah.
And it's crazy. So you look at those first 3 years for Russell, and it took until his fourth year where he cracked that 4,000 passing yards, and then he hit that 34 touchdowns, which is ridiculous, and kind of vaulted him up.
In 2015, we saw the decline of Marshawn Lynch, right?
Yeah. Exactly, and that's when Russell Wilson kind of had to take over that offense. He never eclipsed 500 passing attempts, and we see that, now with Rashad Penny there, I think that they're gonna go back to the run. They're gonna go back to the run, more run heavy than they have been in the past couple of years, where Russell Wilson was throwing over 550 times. So I fully expect that to be right around the 500 mark.
So you expect a Russell Wilson plateau, and then with Mariota, he doesn't have to rely on DeMarco Murray now as a workhorse. We don't know if there's going to be a committee. What it's looking like could be a committee with what he has, and more reliance on the opening up the pass game, which is his evolution now, is what we could be seeing, right?
Exactly, and the thing is, I think it's very realistic to see that jump for Mariota to hit that 500 passing attempts. Once he gets there. His numbers last year, he had a higher completion percentage than Russell Wilson, despite the 15 picks and the 13 touchdowns. And the touchdowns year to year are just kind of very volatile, and just how the year goes. And there's a lot of variables that come into play, so it's very hard to predict touchdowns year to year. I just see, I would be happy ideally with the 520 passing attempts for Mariota. He's hitting 4,000 yards in the air. He's getting 30 touchdowns. He's throwing 10 picks, and he's getting his work on the ground.
Wow, 30 touchdowns! You heard it here first. Marcus Mariota hits that next level, coming off a pretty ugly year. All right, Dalton Cates here, man. You're gonna hear more from him soon. But thanks for joining us here on the Fantasy War Room. So you guys, make sure to get your great value Marcus Mariota and don't reach too high for someone like Russell Wilson, according to what Dalton's saying. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.